Hey, welcome back, fam bam, to Flow and Tell with Links and Tony. It's been a minute, and for this one, I was meditating, and I was thinking about, what are we ultimately, what is the goal? What are we trying to do here? In our exploration and, our metaphysical, what's up, Tony? Our metaphysical detective story, right? It's like you're basically playing hide and seek with the universe, right? Playing hide and seek with this mystery that we're all involved in. But I was thinking, what's a kind of a very concise, or what do they call it, pithy way to kind of break down ultimately what we're trying to do. We talked about, meditation and, transcendence and symbolism and this, that, and the other. But again, we know that it is the application of knowledge that will be of a service to us, not just the knowledge itself, right? We have to be able to apply it. And I was listening to, I'll just say, a very intuitive person who has a platform, and I'm going to call her Kwani. And anyway, I heard her basically kind of boil down. She was talking about the different paths to enlightenment. The Buddhahood, Christhood, these variations that are basically saying the same thing, go about it maybe in different ways culturally. And she broke it down as what we're trying to do, okay, is we're simply, let's put it up here. And we'll leave that one like that. So essentially, which I thought was a great description, and this is a very crude drawing of scales, but what we're essentially trying to do is balance out our light and our dark. Okay? That's essentially what the path, at least in human form, is about, is balancing out our light and dark. Thank you, Kwani. Shout out to you. Because it boils it down in a nutshell, right? We talked about how the universe is about balance. It's about, if you think about when we don't have it on this board, but when we talked about the astrological chart, we know the first sign is always Aries, the ram. The second sign is Taurus, the bull. And we might even do a video on this down the line. But the bull, or Taurus, is the what they call the little brain, right? You have the cerebrum, which is the big brain, the higher brain, we should say. And we have the cerebellum, which connects to the brainstem and which regulates muscle activity and balance. That's historically what the cerebellum, has been known for up until maybe the last 30 or 40 years. It was primarily that. And subsequently, science has specifically, I was looking at a series of treatises on the cerebellum and cerebellar disorders that were published by the National Institutes of Health. So it looks like around the 1980s, 1990s, there started to be more information, more knowledge, more research that indicated that the cerebellum, the hindbrain, the little brain, actually is involved with a great deal of emotional processing, which wasn't, quote unquote, indicated before the last 30, 40 years in an extensive way. So now that cerebellum that regulates balance of the body and the muscle activity, we're finding out that it also has a role in emotional balance. It's connected to the limbic system. We won't go into all the brain or whatever, but the point is just trying to emphasize that you have a left hemisphere and a right hemisphere. I believe the cerebellum also, in effect, has the same. The high brain and the I guess you'd call it the little brain or the hind brain, and they're both requiring and involved with balance in life, right? The right brain, creative, spiritual, subconscious. The left brain, logic, rational, conscious, right? Dark, light, feminine, masculine. And the trick with all of this is the balancing of light and dark. So, when a lot of us were coming up, it was kind of indicated to us that there was a battle, in religious circles, there was a battle going on between light and dark. And then to a degree, it's kind of true, but it's not. Well, I would say that at least in our present existence, it's not that one is going to completely overwhelm and subsume the other one, right? Again, it's about balance. And at different times in history, we have, as a society, right, or as a collective, there have been periods of instability and war that one could say the dark was basically outweighing the light. In other words, there's an ebb and flow to history. There are periods of relative darkness, like say they call it the Dark Ages or whatever. And then there are periods of what they call golden ages, right? Where there seems to be a bit more light than dark versus a bit more dark than light. But as we've discovered, the whole thing is about balance, because you can't really have one without the other, right? Anything that the light hits a shadow is gonna be created. So, but I thought that was a great description, because it puts it in terms where I think it's elemental that we can get into all these different isms and schisms and ideas and, all kind of metaphorical approaches to, how things work. But essentially, what we're talking about is energy, because everything is energy, right? And we're talking about energy at different vibrations. I mean, that's how the phenomenal world works, right? If you can match a vibration, right, then if you align with your vibration with another vibration, right, you become more or less in sync, right? You kind of match up. So everything is vibration, and for the purposes of this, the dark, right, would be synonymous with a lower frequency, and for the terms what we're using up here, and the light would be of a higher frequency, right? The higher frequency, just like on a piano or any other instrument, or with light itself and sound, the light has a shorter wavelength, and the dark, or shall we say, when we talk the lower sounds, right? The bass sounds have a longer wave. Okay, so trying to, because you need to balance the two, right? Because as we talked about with the chakras, you have 7. We're not going to draw the person, but these 2 are in the head, we're going to say, and then we're going to say the throat chakra, and then we'll kind of go down to the, let's do this, very crude, but crown chakra. Actually, that's not crown, that's third eye. This would be the crown up here. Third eye, and so I'm not going to put all this stuff up here, but third eye, throat chakra, heart chakra, solar plexus, bad, sacral, and the root, right? And we know that these 3 down here, the root, the sacral, and the solar plexus, comprise more or less what we call the lower chakras. The heart's right in the middle, and then the throat, third eye, and crown chakra are the upper chakras. The lower chakras, obviously, as we can see from the root, are more related to things of the physical, the earth, right? Stands to reason. And the upper chakras are more, quote unquote, spiritual, or the heavens, or shall we say less dense phenomena. Less dense, more dense, right? The heart being in the middle. That's why we said the heart is the gateway. The heart way connects the lower chakras and the higher chakras. So it's not like maybe some people might think that, oh, the crown, that has to be the best and that's the main one. No, they have to be in balance, right? In order for these energy centers in your body to flow the way that they're intended to flow, they have to be in balance. So, you can have a lot of activity in the higher chakras, but if you're not balanced in the lower chakras, you're not really going to be, because our experience here is human, part divine, part animal. You're going to lose some of the experience of being a human if you don't have these chakras balanced as well as these. Once again, you need one as much as you need the other one. So it kind of brought to mind again how everything is about balance. Right? The heart balances the chakras. Light and dark, we need to balance. We know that if the cerebellum I was talking about, which is, the back of the head, be roughly there, versus the cerebrum, which is top of the head. The cerebellum is about, balance. And now we know that it deals with emotional balance. And we were talking about in a few episodes back about desire, that, desire is cool in one sense, but you can find yourself out of balance if your desire is not rooted, right? Is not grounded. You can kind of go off on a tangent and harm yourself or somebody else because of unbridled desire. It's in fact, the whole point of Christhood and Buddhahood is to be able to separate from desire. And when you get to the point where you can detach from desire, then you cannot be ruled by any of your appetites, right? Any of your desires. You will become master over them. And that's one of the things we're learning. That's, for me, that's been part of my journey, is like, I did not understand how energy worked when I was younger, that to the extent that we're finding out now because of quantum physics and what have you, it's everything. So once we understand that we could energetically affect another person and vice versa, that we can manipulate energy, if you will, because remember, energy is not, it's not created or destroyed. It's either transferred or transmuted. So it's probably one of the most important things I would say you can learn, as many of us are on our path. We're all, at various stages of what many are calling or would call awakening, or the road to enlightenment, right? There's no finish line. Doesn't really exist. There's always going to be something to learn. There's always going to be something to heal, because of the aggregate amount of trauma that we've all, either been through, or, a combination of what we've been through and what our ancestors, carried down to us from their experiences. As we all heal, the idea is that the more you heal, the more you can ascend, the more that you can raise your vibration. Balancing the light and the dark enables you to raise your vibration, right? You're not going to function in this world if it's all one, or you're going to be a menace if it's all the other. It's about balance, right? We all have a shadow. There's a reason why you have the dark. The trick is at a healthy balance. And that's, the goal is not perfection. The goal is progress, right? Because we're all on this road. And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing, sharing with you, is because my journey was not like many people. It's been a challenge, this life journey. A lot of things I didn't understand, why this was this way or that way, or why people were a certain way. And as we grow older, we learn, but also I think, as we talked about with going within, we deepen. It's not just a question of, we know we're going to grow old. That's automatic. But the question is will we deepen over time? Will we create resonances within ourselves that have been honed from overcoming what may have been personal shortcomings that we had to get over, as well as shortcomings in a fractured society at various times, throughout history? We know it has been a very fractured society, depending upon where you are or where you were. So a lot of damage and trauma can accrue not just on the individual, but on collective societies, on tribes, on cultures. And the trick that we're learning is how we could overcome that which, whether it was for our own making or something that was bequeathed to us, we're responsible. At some point, we become responsible for attempting to heal or correct or modulate our behaviors, especially when we know that we're not operating at the higher frequency that we probably could. There are a lot of factors that make it hard for many of us to see the blind spots in ourselves. We can notice them in other people, but it's like when it comes to yourself and taking your own advice that you give out to other people, it's tricky. So I just thought, when I heard Kwani talk about how, just simplifying it. Hey, it's about balancing the yin and the yang, the masculine and the feminine, the light and the dark. And that's really what it is, but easier said than done. Oftentimes in our blind spots, we don't even know that we're operating out of the dark, right? It's become a habit. We've been conditioned from our environment or from our family or from whatever. And we're not even aware of it. And that's why we say that when you go within, when you go into meditation, you are separating from all that stuff, from the program. You are detaching, at least for a time, from the programs, wherever the programs came from. That's the whole point of the sacrifice, is to separate from the flesh so that you can connect to the higher. And from that connection to the higher, which has the, higher vantage point, you can begin to see aspects of yourself and aspects of the phenomena around you in a way that maybe you didn't see before, that can give you some insight as to, oh, I see, this happened to me when I was 7 or 6, and we know there's therapists and past life regression and all kind of different ways that you can kind of dig back into that. But the point is that all of this stuff at the end of the day is about balance, right? You're never going to be perfect. You're never going to be in a situation where I've learned everything I can learn and I'm as good as you can get. It's not going to happen in this physical dimension, because we're actually here to learn. And that's the reason why it is light and dark and not all light, shall we say. Because for you to grow, for us to grow in an experience, we have to have resistance. We have to have obstacles. If an athlete, if a basketball player, if I want to get better, right? If I want to be able to shake and bake with the best of them, I've got to play the best of them, because that's going to help me to get better. And it only stands to reason. So the universe in its infinite wisdom understands that on this journey, in order for you to learn and grow and not be in a static condition where you can have an adventure, where there's a story to tell, if you more or less even these up, and if, we're just going to say, for the purposes of what we're discussing now, if this is progress and this is resistance, even though I'm oversimplifying, but just because this is visible and we can kind of see it, the only way this gets stronger and better and more durable is to come up against something about as durable and strong and relentless as it is, right? And that when you're able to overcome whatever limitation, whatever obstacle, that's how your muscles get stronger. That's how you get more flexible. That's how, and we're speaking spiritually, but that's how that happens. So the universe knew or knows that for there to be a story to tell, for us not to be yawning and bored after, a year of all good things, you got to have a story, right? So there has to be, in effect, there has to be a hero and there has to be a villain. And they can change roles. Maybe in this movie, I'm the villain and, you're the hero. Maybe in the next movie, I'm the hero and you're the villain, right? These roles can be swapped to a degree, but for the action to move forward, for the story to be told, for us to see where we've grown from where we've come, there has to be an adversary, as we know. There has to be resistance. There has to be an obstacle, or what is there to this story, at least in this three-dimensional world, right? That's how we learn. That's how we grow. So this series, as I've stated before, is not about me knowing anything more than anybody else. I'm a student. What I'm doing as a student, though, is I'm sharing with others who might also consider themselves students of life, and maybe you pick up a few things from me here and there, and I pick up things from you. Like I said, I watch a lot of people on these platforms, and there's so much good material. There's so many people that are doing good work. I guess you'd call it on the social media platforms. What can you say? I mean, if I have a choice between mainstream media and some of the more, I'll say, well-vetted social media, meaning people that I've checked out and they seem to be consistently on point with their perspective and their viewpoints and their knowledge, I'm going to probably go to social media eight times out of 10, because I know what I'm going to get from the other one. It's pretty predictable. It is what it is. But if you want to get some really interesting meat and potatoes from people that aren't making $1 million a year or whatever, they're just sharing information and knowledge that they've come across. Never in history have we had so much information at our access. You can Google stuff now that back in the day, I had a whole set of encyclopedias that you had to fish through to put together, what we can do now in a couple of minutes. So there's really no excuse for all of us to say, hey, if we have an interest, the information's there. Yeah, you got to wade through it because not all of it, shall we say, is worthy of the attention that you give to it. But a lot of, there are good chunks of it that are. So I just want to give a shout out to, all the very diligent folks out there, the intuitives as well as the detectives. It's great to be a part of a time in history which, again, many of us feel is pivotal. It's an end it's an end and the beginning of a true, I guess you'd call it a huge changeover from the way that we've been living, probably for the last 2,000 to 4,000 years, to something that's going to be very different for all of us. So, once again, thank you to everyone that follows us and checks us out and has subscribed and liked and commented. Once again, we truly appreciate it, because it's a pleasure for us to share what we come across. And again, we're not putting it across as this is definitive. This is an exploration. And hopefully, some of you are able to benefit from some of the things that we've come across, right? And kind of share with you. So for me, it's like it is. I'd say all praises to the Most High God, Mother, and Father. That's the only reason why I'm here. And my spirit team, it's fantastic to be on a journey. And even though the assistance may not be quote unquote visible to the physical eyes, it is the knowledge and knowing that we are not here alone. Once again, thank you.